Okay, good. Awesome. Okay, guys. So today, what I wanted to cover is basically day one of a two-part training that we're going to set up with your market. And on the first day, this should only take about 45 minutes or so. On the first day, I really like to focus more on the product and how to sell our product, how to pitch it, how to talk about our differentiators. I'm also going to introduce you to the team of people at Bridge that you're going to be working with on a regular basis. And I'll also spend some time going through the reporting and the tools that we use to prove that a campaign is working. For me, in my experience selling digital, your battle is not over when you close a sale. You still need to be able to successfully go back and have conversations with your clients about whether or not the campaign is working, how to know whether or not the campaign is working, how to prove it, and make sure that you keep your clients confident so that you can get the renewals or get those longer term buys as you get more confident selling these products and pitching them to certain advertisers. So I really want to focus on that. If we have time, I'll also spend a few minutes going through our portal just to introduce you to how to navigate it and how to make certain requests from our team, like if you have a request for a proposal, or if you need an audience count, or if you're submitting an order, or if you want to set up training or you need case studies, you can do all of that through our portal. And it's very user friendly, but I like to just give you a quick overview so that you'll understand how to navigate it and it'll be as simple as possible for you. On the next training, I focus more on the post-sale process. I think it's really important for sellers to not only understand how to sell it, but how to set expectations with your client after you've closed a sale or you've won that investment from an advertiser. So on the next training, I'll talk more about everything that we do from the moment we receive an insertion order to when we can launch a campaign. I'll also talk about certain expectations that you should set in terms of, not only how long things take, but, what the tools should be that we use to measure the success and, how many cars an auto dealer can expect to sell, how many clicks can somebody expect to get, how many form fills can somebody expect to get, so that you're setting the right expectation with your client on, how they should measure the success. Okay, so that being said, the first thing I want to talk about today is your Bridge team. So there are three people that you will be working with primarily in Bloomington, as well as in Peoria. My photo is at the top of the screen in the top left corner. I am the director of sales, so my role is primarily, obviously, sales. Everything that happens before you actually get a contract signed or win that investment from your advertiser. So if you need any assistance, I'm going to be the one who steps in to help you do that. And that means I'm here for training. I'm here for a brainstorming session. If you want to hop on the phone, ask me questions, get my advice or recommendations for a media strategy. If you would like me to get on the phone with a client and do a webinar or a screen share, just like we're doing now, I'm happy to do that and actually help you pitch to your client. One thing I will say is that we will never communicate directly with a client if you are not also involved. So I will never get on the phone with one of your clients if you're not on the line, and we will never call any of your clients or respond. If a client calls us, we will not call them back. We will not email a client directly. That's something that Cumulus Corporate has been very strict about. They want us to appear as if we are Cumulus employees and we work for Cumulus Corporate. So the fact that we do not have Cumulus email addresses means we cannot ever email a client directly. So please don't ever offer that to a client. It's really important that you as AEs remain as the main point of contact. You are going to be the one quarterbacking the relationship and the sale. So everything needs to go through you. So I'm happy to get on the phone with a client, but you also need to be on the phone. And I'm happy to answer questions, but those questions via email will need to go to you, and then you can forward the information to your client. Right below me is Danielle Fruman, and right below her is Chris Viscani. The two of them work on the account management side. So that means after you close a sale and submit the insertion order, the campaign gets passed off to them. I will step back because, again, I work on the pre-sales side. Danielle and Chris are the people who will work to get your campaign launched. They will be the ones checking the pacing, optimizing your campaign. They will be pulling the reporting and communicating all of that to you. So if you ever have questions about a campaign that's live or is, if we're working towards getting it live, you'll be communicating with either Danielle or Chris primarily. Chris is going to be your main point of contact. Danielle usually steps in either for bigger campaigns or if there's any kind of issue or problem that she needs to help put a fire out, she'll step in. She is Chris's supervisor. One thing I do want to point out is our contact information. So all of us have phone numbers and personal email addresses, which I've listed next to our photos. But if you notice, the very last line is an email address, and all three of us have the same one. It's cumulusbloomington@thebridgecorp.com. Chris, Danielle, and myself work very closely as a team. We are constantly in communication with each other, and we all help each other out. So if I'm traveling or if I'm doing a market visit or if I'm doing a training session or a sales call, and Chris and Melissa know that, if you send your question or your need by using the cumulusbloomington@thebridgecorp.com email address and all three of us get it, usually you'll get a much faster response because if I'm tied up, Chris or Melissa can step in and respond on my behalf. Or same goes for them. If Danielle's in a meeting or if Chris is unavailable, I can always step in and try to answer your question or get you what you need the fastest way possible. So what I always recommend is to just use the Cumulus Bloomington email address, regardless of who you're trying to get a hold of, and that way all three of us will get it so that we can get back to you the fastest way possible. Or at the bare minimum, try to make sure that you carbon copy cumulusbloomington@thebridgecorp.com if you're emailing any of us directly. That way we can all three stay in the loop and stay on the same page of what's going on with your campaign and what your needs are. Okay, so now that I've introduced you to the team, I would like to introduce you to our product. So Bridge is a company that is capable of providing you with any display campaign that you could need. So if you are trying to serve a banner advertisement to a client or to a group of consumers for a client, we can do that. So if you need retargeting, geofencing, behavioral targeting, keyword search targeting, contextual targeting, any of those things we are capable of doing. We can even do programmatic audio. So if you have a 15 or 30-second radio spot and you want to be able to offer to your client that we can let that play on channels like Spotify or any other digital streaming service, we do have the ability to do that. We also can do connected TV, or otherwise known as OTT, which is when a consumer is maybe using a streaming service instead of buying cable. So instead of actually watching TV on a broadcast, they're using a Google Chromecast or a Roku stick or an Amazon Fire or an Xbox to stream video content, or Netflix or HBO Go or Showtime Anytime, things like that. We can actually serve digital ads through those channels. So I want you to know that all of those are options, but today I'm going to focus more on training you on our core product, which is people-based marketing. That's what we call it. And this is what 95% of our campaigns that we execute are made up of, is people-based marketing strategy. So in a nutshell, what people-based marketing is it's basically our ability to use our own internal first-party consumer database. We have over 250 million consumers who have opted in to be in our own database across the country. And what we can do is identify target audience groups from that database. And we have the ability to track not only the behaviors of what those consumers are doing, but we also are tracking all of the devices that are linked to those individual consumers and how often they tend to use each device and what channels they use those devices for most frequently. So what that allows us to do is after we target the audience, we can serve each person within that audience group a totally unique and customized ad campaign that fits their own personal devices and behaviors on those devices. So the real differentiator with people-based marketing versus what other digital companies are doing is the fact that we can serve each person a customized media plan or a customized advertising experience based on what we've tracked their behaviors are and what we think will lead to the highest conversions, the highest number of conversions with those consumers. So what most other companies are doing is they'll tell an advertiser to just pick a channel. Like they'll say, you know, video has the highest retention rate, so you should do a video pre-roll campaign. Or Facebook is still the most popular social network, so you should put your entire budget towards Facebook and do a Facebook campaign. Or, you know, you should do a mobile campaign because over 80% of internet activity is done on a mobile device. So you should put your entire budget towards mobile. And these advertisers are assuming that everybody in the target audience group is going to react the same way. So everybody's going to be on a mobile device, or everybody's going to be on Facebook, or everybody's going to be on YouTube. But that's not the case. Even if consumers within a target audience group are all intenders of the same product or service, that does not mean that they all have the same devices and they're all going to use the devices the same way. So our big differentiator with people-based marketing is that we're focusing on the people, not on the channel. And that's a huge game changer. It increases the chances of conversion. It allows our targeting to be more narrow and the campaigns will be more successful. So that's how I give kind of my quick elevator pitch. I talk about our database. I say that we have over 250 million consumers in it. We have over 40 million business records in our database. It's nationwide, so we can target anywhere in the country. And once we identify that target audience, we can serve each person within that audience a totally customized advertising experience or media strategy that fits their specific behaviors and devices. So that's how I'll word it to a client. For you guys as AEs, I want to get a little deeper than that and give you more of the backstory on how exactly we're able to do it. Sometimes I will share this with a client. I'll talk about the backstory and I'll get more in detail because a lot of times this is what wins them over. When they hear about how sophisticated our database is and our targeting capabilities, they get really excited. So this is what I'll be here for to help you with if you ever want me to get on the phone and help you pitch to a client. If you think it's a big opportunity and the client is going to lead to a long-term campaign, I'm always happy to do this. So I want to give you a little bit of a background on Bridge marketing. So Bridge did not start out as a traditional digital marketing company like most other companies did. We actually started out as a data company, and we partnered with other data companies like Axiom, Experian, Nielsen, Infogroup. We partnered with those companies who needed help cleaning up the data that they were collecting. So these companies would come to us with these data files or information that they were collecting on consumers, and they basically relied on us to fill in any holes or cross-check it, scrub it, clean it, verify it, kick out any outdated information or information that was bouncing back, maybe invalid email addresses, and basically just make sure that it was still relevant and accurate, and we would send it back to them as a usable file. Because the data that they were collecting was so unorganized that they didn't really have a way to use it. So that was that's been the core of our business, and we've been doing that for years. And through that process, we were able to build up very solid direct partnerships with these other data companies and our own first-party consumer database. So that's The fact that we have such a massive database that we own, it's first party, we're not paying for any of the information, we're not buying any email lists. This is huge because it puts us in control of our data. We are in control and we are in charge of protecting it and cleaning it and scrubbing it and verifying it and cross-checking it. So we know that our data is good. We're not just buying it from an unreliable company trying to get the biggest bang for our buck. We know the data is good because we are in control of managing it. And through these partnerships with Nielsen and Axiom and Experian and Infogroup, that's how we're able to continually collect more information and add it to our database to make it even more robust. So with these partnerships, we collect 3 different types of information on consumers. Most companies are not collecting these 3 different types of information. We're collecting offline information, online information, and mobile information. Most companies use the online information. Some companies use the online and the offline, but it's extremely rare for companies to have access to all 3, offline, online, and mobile. So the offline information, I'll start with that. That comes with our partnerships or from our partnerships with Axiom and Experian. They are experts at analyzing and collecting offline data. And they do this through things like purchase records, census data, political information, criminal histories. That's how they're collecting this information. Consumer surveys is a big way. And the offline category includes things like your demographic information, your occupation, family structure, household income, your home value, what type of car you drive, your home address, in-store purchases is a big one. So if somebody's using a credit card to go buy something in a store, we're not getting the credit card information, but we are getting access to the types of stores they shop at, what types of products they're buying, how much money they typically spend on those products, how frequently they visit those stores. And that's huge because if we're trying to target, let's say someone who might be an intender of a new gym facility that's opening up in your town, we can go back and look at people who, all right, this person, has purchased 3 different gym memberships over the past 3 years. So they clearly bounce around and they're trying to find a better solution. It's also a person who just bought a new pair of running shoes, or maybe they just bought kettlebells, or maybe they're buying, exercise clothing on a regular basis. We know that person, based on their purchase history, might be someone who's relevant to this new advertiser. Or maybe we're trying to target moms, and we can look at people who shop at, baby stores, or, stores like Baby Gap, or not Toys R Us anymore, but a children's toy store. There's so much that we can do by looking at people's purchase history. We can even look at people who are certain intenders of a specific make or model of a car. If it's a person who's always owned Ford trucks and you have a dealership who's trying to promote Ford trucks, we not only can target auto intenders, we can target auto intenders who are very loyal to a specific make or model. So there's so much we can do on a really narrow level through the offline category of information that we're collecting. And literally every single week, Axiom and Experian is sending us these data points, and all of the information is tied to a person's first and last name, their email address, and their street address or their home address. So once we get this information, we put it into our database and we organize it, and we try to link it to a specific person. The second category of information is the online data. And this is very common. So we get this information through our partnership with Nielsen. Nielsen is an expert at analyzing cookie data. And a cookie is something that's in your internet browser. And just in case anybody doesn't know exactly what that is, a browser is something like Google Chrome or Internet Explorer, whatever internet provider you're using, or whatever browser you select so that you can browse the internet is the browser. And there are cookies in that browser that track everything a person is doing. So if I open up Internet Explorer or Firefox or Google Chrome, each of those has cookies that are tracking every website I visit, what I'm doing on social media, what I'm searching for. If I'm using Google or Bing or another search engine to look something up, it's tracking that. It's tracking everything I purchase online, every blog I read or article I'm researching, all of it's tracked. And every single week, Nielsen sends us this information, and it's tied to a person's first and last name, their email address, and the IP address that that computer is connected to. So we're basically using the person's name and email address as the glue that's linking these data points to a specific individual person. The third category is the mobile. This is a game changer because not a lot of other companies have access to this or have a way of connecting it to the other two types of information. So we have partnerships with mobile app companies or mobile app developers who have the ability to see every app that someone has on their phone. So I'll back up for a second. Most consumers don't realize this, but every time you download a new app on your phone and you accept the terms and conditions, you're basically giving that company or that developer permission to see what's on your phone. So that's how we're getting permission to take an inside look at what's on everybody's phone and see every app you have downloaded, how often you're using each app. We can see where that phone is going if the GPS is enabled. So if somebody's going to certain locations on a regular basis, we can see that about that person. And every single week, we're getting these data points from these mobile companies, and all of the information is connected to the name that's registered to that mobile device, the mobile device ID, and the email address that's registered to that mobile device. So literally every week, we're building up our database. It's getting stronger and stronger, and we're filling it with information on specific individual people across the country that includes offline information, online information, and mobile information. And that's how we're able to do two things better than other digital marketing companies for our clients. We're able to target on a much more specific level. And that's important because you have to make sure when you're doing digital advertising that you're reaching a relevant audience. If you're not reaching relevant people, they are not going to care about the ads that we're serving to them, and we're basically just wasting your client's investment. Consumers only complain that advertising is annoying when it's not relevant to them. If it's relevant, they're not going to complain about it. They're going to appreciate it. So you got to make sure that the ads we're serving are being served to relevant people, and we can do that better than anybody. The second thing we can do that's a huge benefit is we can serve the ads in a meaningful way. And this is something, in my opinion, that is always a very underrated thing. And oftentimes it's left out of the conversation when we're pitching to a client. We always talk about the targeting, but we're not talking about the ad experience. And if we're not giving people a good ad experience, that's another way they might get annoyed, or the ads are not going to be effective. If we're serving mobile ads all day long to somebody who has never clicked on a mobile ad in their life, we're just wasting the client's budget. So what we can do is we can identify the best way to serve each people or each person in that target audience group, best way to serve them ads so it'll lead to an increased chance that we're going to get a conversion. So for example, let's say I'm a person who loves social media, and every day I scroll through my Instagram feed and I have a history of clicking on ads that are served to me through my Instagram feed. Because maybe I like to scroll through Instagram on my tablet, so I have a bigger screen. And maybe I look at Instagram when I'm not running around all day at work, and I actually have a minute to sit down at the end of my day and look through my feed and see what everybody's up to. And that's when my guard is down, I'm more relaxed, and I'm going to be much more likely to engage with advertisements. Maybe somebody else prefers Facebook. Maybe somebody else has a history of engaging with ads that are served through mobile apps. Maybe somebody else has a history of clicking on ads that are served on their laptop computer when they're browsing websites during business hours. We know all of this about each person. So when we put together a digital campaign, each person is going to receive their ads in the way that makes the most sense for them. I'm going to take a second now that I'm sure overwhelmed you guys. I'm just going to pause for a second before I move on to the next phase of the training. Okay, so again, try not to worry too much about everything I just unleashed on you. It's a lot of information, and really what you just need to focus on when you're talking about people-based marketing with your clients is that we have a huge first-party database, contains over 250 million consumers nationwide, and we have the ability to identify the devices and the behaviors of each person within our database. And that allows us to target extremely narrowly and serve ads in a customized fashion to each person. Okay, so now that I've talked about the data and the power of our database and how we're different, I want to show you what a typical campaign looks like. I am a really big fan of building customized strategies for every single client. And I spend a really large portion of my time creating proposals or media strategies for all of the AEs I work with across Cumulus. I work with about 42 markets, and I spend a lot of time building proposals. And this is something that you can request through the portal, which I'll show you in a little bit. And what I always do is I ask you a few questions when you make the proposal request through the portal. There's a short form that you have to fill out that gives me some information, and then I do a little bit of research. And I look at a lot of different factors when I'm putting together a media strategy. I look at what type of client it is, how much budget you think they have to invest per month. I look at what the goal of the campaign is and what they're trying to accomplish. I look at what city the client is located in and how much competition they have in that city. I try to find out what other types of advertising your client is doing and what types of advertising their competitors are doing. I try to look at the time of year, any digital trends. I look at all sorts of things, how long the campaign is going to run, how well known or established that brand is within their community. I look at several different things to put together the most ideal strategy, in my opinion. So every campaign is very personalized and very unique, but most of our campaigns have the same two phases. So we might make small changes here and there, depending on your specific client and their needs and goals, but most campaigns have the same two phases. The first phase is an email phase, and the second phase is a multi-channel phase. So the email phase, in my opinion, is brilliant. I love kicking a campaign off with an email piece. And the reason why is because of three different things. The first is that over 90% of consumers check their email at least once a day. So if we kick off the campaign with an email, you know there is a very good chance that everybody in that target audience, or at least 90% of them, are going to see that email the very same day that we deployed the email. So it's a great way, especially if it's a time-sensitive campaign, to get our message in front of relevant eyeballs as quickly as possible. The other thing I really like about email is that when consumers check their email, it's their choice to do it. We're not going to bombard consumers with email. We're not going to be slapping them in the face with unwanted advertisements if we send an email. It's their choice to open it. So by making it the consumer's choice and by making the consumer the one who's in control of seeing it, means that their guard is going to be down. They're going to be much more likely to pay attention to what they're looking at, engage with it, and retain the information. So consumers do not typically complain about how annoying emails are, because if they don't want to look at it, they won't. They don't have to if they don't want to. But if they open it, it's because they wanted to. You know, it's hard to accidentally open an email ad and get annoyed by that versus other channels where sometimes people accidentally click or they, maybe they get turned off because we're serving them ads on the wrong channels and they're unwanted. Email tends to be a positive advertising experience for the consumers. The third thing I really like about email is that from an advertiser's perspective, you have a lot more space to communicate to the consumer why they should shop at our client or why they should consider working with our client versus all of the other businesses that are available to them. So compared to a teeny tiny little mobile banner ad, which could be the size of a small Band-Aid you'd put on your pinky finger when you get a hangnail, in those cases, you don't have any room to communicate an engaging message to that consumer. The ad is so small, it's really difficult to hook their interest and keep them engaged. In an email, though, you could do so much. You could promote multiple different offers. You could put video content. You could do a photo gallery. You could do customer testimonials, before and after pictures. You can do so much in an email that you just can't effectively do in other channels. The only downside to email, in my opinion, and you guys can all relate to this because you're radio sellers, is you don't have a way of getting a very strong frequency. And frequency is so important. You need to make sure that the consumer is seeing or hearing the ad over and over again if you expect it to stick in their brain and stay top of mind. And with email, even if you send multiple emails throughout a single month, you're still not really hitting them enough to remain top of mind. So that's why we launched phase 2 of the campaign, which is the multi-channel phase. As soon as we deploy the email, whether the consumer has opened it yet or not, every consumer who we sent the email to is now going to start receiving a high frequency of multi-channel ads. And this is the part of the campaign that's going to be the customized ad experience. We're going to serve these ads across all of the channels and all of the devices that we know make the most sense for each person who's in the target audience group. And these channels include Facebook, Instagram, desktop websites, mobile websites, video pre-roll, native ads, connected TV or OTT, programmatic audio. All of these channels are included in our mix. Okay, so throughout the life of the campaign, we will send you and your client several different reports along the way so that they can stay up to date on how it's performing and how many impressions we've served and how many clicks they're getting. Most of the reporting is pretty standard, but there are 3 reports that I think are extremely crucial for the sellers to understand, because there are 3 reports, in my opinion, that really prove the ROI of the campaign. For me, I honestly don't really care much about how many impressions we've served and how many clicks, because that doesn't really mean anything. I mean, it's nice to know, but it's not going to tell your auto dealer how many cars they sold, and it's not going to tell the quick service restaurant down the street how many people have gone in and purchased a cheeseburger or fried chicken at their store location since the start of the campaign. It doesn't really tell you about the conversions. And in my opinion, the conversions are really what matter. So we have 3 reports that help prove the conversions. And these are the things that, in my opinion, are going to get you the renewal, and it's going to get you that satisfied client who trusts you and who is confident in our strategy. So for today's training, just for the sake of time, I'm going to just focus on those 3. And I'll email you guys this deck. So if you need to go through and take a look at the other reports that you'll be getting, you can do that on your own. And with each slide, I give you a screenshot, and then I also give you a description of what you can learn from each report. So it's real easy to go back and take a look. All the information will be right here on these slides. So the first report I want to go over in detail is the matchback report. This is something that you will receive with every single people-based marketing campaign you run. It's automatically included. It does not cost anything extra. You don't have to ask us for it. We will send it to you either every 30 days So at the end of every month, you'll get it, or at the end of your campaign, whichever comes first. So if you have a campaign that ends in the middle of September, we'll send you the report in the middle of September. We won't wait until the end of the month. And on this report, it's basically going to be a huge Excel file that includes the first name, the last name, and the street address of every single person who received our advertisement. So let's say, for example, we go into our database and we identify 34,891 people who match your client's ideal target audience description. And we send an email to the 34,891 people, and then we do multi-channel ads to the same group of 34,891 people. You're going to get an Excel file that has the first name, last name, and street address of all 34,891 people. And what this allows your client to do is match those names from our Excel document to the names of the people who converted or became a customer or purchased the product. So this works great for auto dealers because auto dealers keep track of the names of everybody who comes in and buys a vehicle. They put the customer's name in their database and they know who is coming in and buying cars. So if at the end of every 30 days or at the end of the campaign, if your client wants to give us the list of all of the new customers they acquired since the start of our campaign, and let's say they sold 60 cars in the month of July, we can match those names to this list and go back to your client and say, hey, we matched 18% of your monthly car sales. That by far is going to provide a return on your client's investment. They may invest $5,000 in a monthly campaign, but if they sell 11 cars or 15 cars, they're going to more than make their money back. And for me, if I can prove that the client got more in return than what they invested, that is going to win me a renewal every single time. So the matchback report is key for any client who's actually keeping track of the names of their customers or conversions. And it can work either way, by the way. So if your client wants to give us the list of names that they acquired, we can do the cross-checking for them. If your client is not comfortable releasing the names, like let's say it's a doctor or a psychologist or an attorney, a lot of times for legal or for privacy reasons, they will not give us the list of the new patients they collected. And that's totally fine. What we'll do is we'll just give them the match back and ask that they cross-check it. Another thing I want to point out is the matchback report will not include email addresses. It only includes the name and the street address of the consumer, not the email address. We do not give out email addresses because it's a violation of consumer privacy laws. I know that there are companies out there who do sell an email list or they'll give out that information, but to be totally honest, they're not supposed to do that. It actually is illegal. And if an advertiser gets caught taking an email list and importing it into their internal database and they start emailing those people, they could get flagged. They could get flagged as spam and they could get blacklisted. So all of their emails will automatically come bouncing back. And we actually have experienced this with a few other Cumulus markets. I think the most recent one was in Kansas City, where they were using another vendor who ran an email campaign for Cumulus Kansas City, and that vendor sold the client the email list, and that client took those email addresses and put them into their internal database, and the emails all bounced back, and then they got flagged, and now they are no longer allowed to do any email marketing through Constant Contact or MailChimp, which are two of the most popular email services that an advertiser can use to do email marketing internally. So it could end up biting the advertiser in the butt, and we do not want to be responsible for that. We also take consumer privacy very seriously. And I think consumers and advertisers can respect that from us, especially with the latest Facebook scandal where there was a huge break in consumer privacy and consumers learned that Facebook was selling their information to third-party companies, and now a lot of people don't trust Facebook. We do not want to have that happen to us. So that's why we will not ever sell email addresses. And I always, because you will get asked this, I'm sure you guys will be asked at some point if you'll include the email addresses on the matchback report, because your client's going to want to just import those into their database. And what I always just tell the client is I say, this is not a remarketing report. That's not the purpose of the report. It's called the matchback report for a reason. The purpose of this report is to provide just enough information so that we can match back the names and track the number of conversions we're getting. That's the purpose of this report. And by giving the client the first name and the last name and the street address, that basically is enough to verify a consumer who is local and went in and purchased the product or the car or converted in some way. Okay, the next report is the foot traffic attribution report. So you will have some clients who are not going to really receive a benefit from the matchback. Let's say we're running a campaign for a convenience store or a quick service restaurant or even a sit-down restaurant. Those types of businesses do not keep track of the names of everybody who comes in and buys their product. If there is a Chick-fil-A, can you imagine how crazy that would be if they had to actually enter every single customer's name into their database? They just can't, because the volume of people that come through their door on a daily basis is just way too high. So for a client like that, they would not benefit from the matchback, but they do want to know how many people are visiting their store as a result of our campaign. This also works well for event-based promotions. If you have an advertiser who's maybe sponsoring an event that your radio station is hosting, let's say you've got an annual concert or there's a charity event or just something happening around town and you've got certain sponsors of that, or even if the radio station's not involved and you just have a client who's putting on an event and they need to know how many people received our ad and then attended that event or that concert, this is the report that will show that information to them. So the way that it works is we start advertising for your client and we start serving the ads. We send out the email, we send out those multi-channel ads. And then what we do is we will place a conversion zone around your client's business location. Or even if it's a quick service restaurant like a Dunkin' Donuts or a Chick-fil-A and they have multiple locations in your town, we can put a conversion zone around each location. That's no problem. It does not change the price. Or we can put a conversion zone around the location of where the event is going to be. And because we know every device that's linked to a specific person, even if the consumer receives the ad in their email, which they looked at from their desktop computer at work, or maybe they saw the ad on their Instagram feed from their tablet or from a totally different device, but then when they go to the location, they bring their iPhone or their smartphone with them. Because we have all the devices linked to each person, it doesn't matter what device they see the ad on and what device they bring with them when they go into the conversion zone. Most people don't leave home without their iPhones on them. So that's the thing that's going to trigger the conversion. Once we serve an ad, if that smartphone actually goes to the conversion zone a few days later or a few weeks later, anytime after we know we've served that individual person the ad and that person converts, it's going to show up in the foot traffic report. So when you look at the report, on the left side of the screen, it's going to look like a big Excel file, and all of the different rows you're looking at are for each location. So this example you're looking at was for a Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen fast food restaurant in Washington, D.C., and they had 92 different locations in the D.C. metro area. So we had 92 different rows, and with each location, we had the address of the location and then how many people converted, meaning this is how many people saw our ad and then went to that location. So if we do this for a client who only has 1 or 2 locations, the report's going to be much smaller. It's just going to have 1 or 2 rows. But each row represents a different location by your client. And the last column, The last column that I circled in red called FTA, that's the foot traffic attribution. That's how many people showed up after receiving our ad. Okay, so this is the third report, and it's really important, guys. So when you're giving or when you're going through the CNA with your client before the campaign is sold or before it's launched, it's so important to ask your client what the goal is and be specific. Don't let your client just say, well, I want sales. Obviously, I want to see my sales increase. I want to see website traffic. Don't let them get away with that. Try to be specific. Try to say, okay, you want website traffic, but what specifically do you want to have happen on your website? Do you just want people to go to the homepage? Or is this a recruitment campaign? So you want people to go to your website, find the job opportunity page, fill out an application, and then click submit. Or maybe if it's an e-commerce site, they actually want people to go to the website, fill up their shopping cart, and actually check out and become an actual customer. Or maybe it's a company, if it's for education, and they just want people to go to a specific page. Maybe they want people to know that they're going to the enrollment page, or there's a specific section of the website that they're trying to get people to go to. Find out exactly what the client wants to see happen in order for us to get that renewal, in order for them to feel like this is successful. If they're trying to sell cars, find out how many, what's the goal, and make sure that it's realistic. If you have a client who says, I want to sell 100 cars this month, and typically they sell 10, obviously that's an unrealistic goal. So ask them, how many cars do you typically sell in a month? Okay, if we could prove that 15% of your monthly car sales came from our campaign, would you feel like that was successful? Try to get your client to confirm what a successful campaign would look like. And usually when you ask those questions, your client will tell you one or two of three different options. They'll tell you, I want to be able to prove that a certain number of people became customers of mine from your campaign. And if they are a client who's keeping track of the names of their customers, that's when you know to talk about the matchback report. Tell them, we have a way of showing you the names of the people that came in and bought your product. Or if it's a client who says, I just want to know people are coming to my event. I want to know people are buying tickets to my show and showing up at my event. Or I want to know people are coming into my restaurant. That's when you know to talk about the foot traffic report. And if the goal is website traffic related, if they want something to happen on the website, what you're looking at here is the report that's going to do it, the cross-device pixel report. So this report does involve us placing a pixel on your client's website, which is something that's very easy to do. We will email a pixel to you, and you will email it to your client, and we will also provide instructions for your client on how to place it. If any of you are unfamiliar with pixels, pixels are something that they've actually been around for quite a while. It's a string of coding that gets put on the back end of a website, and it traditionally would track how many people would click on it, or how many people would see a digital ad and click on it and then go to that advertiser's website. So a lot of advertisers demanded that we would use pixels. But the problem with traditional pixels now is that they're not very efficient, because a lot of consumers today don't like to click on ads. I would guarantee that everybody in the room right now has not purposely clicked on a digital ad in a really long time, at least not on purpose. So that does not mean that the ads are not effective. People are not clicking on them, which means pixels are not firing and tracking properly, but people are still paying attention to the ads that they're seeing, and they might still go to the website maybe the next day, maybe from a totally different device. They're still going to the website. So the campaign is still successful in driving traffic to the website, but people are not doing it by clicking on the ads. I've heard 100 different reasons why people don't like to click on ads. Some people are afraid they're going to get a virus. Some people are afraid they're going to get retargeted or it's going to lead to spam, or maybe it's just bad timing. A lot of times I get ads and I'm just not in a good place to stop what I'm doing and click on an ad and start browsing a website. A lot of people also are picky about the devices they use when they browse websites. Some people love browsing websites from their smartphones. Other people prefer to have a larger screen, so they want to wait till they're at a laptop or a desktop computer. So what a lot of people do is they see an ad and they'll take a screenshot of it and then they email it to themselves so that they remember to go visit the website later when they actually have time to do it or when they can be on the device of their choice. So what we have developed is called a cross-device pixel. And this thing is awesome. I love this report. I think it's one of the most underutilized reports that we have. So a cross-device pixel will track a few different things. It'll track people who see an ad, click on it, and visit the website. It'll also track people who see an ad, do not click on it, and still end up visiting the website on their own, even if it happens a day or two later. So this is the solution that will prove that campaigns are still successful, even if we're not getting very many clicks. The other thing it tracks is conversion. So it's one thing to get people to click on an ad and visit the homepage of a website. It's another thing if people go to the homepage, then they navigate to the job application page, they fill out the job application, and then they actually click submit. So if there's a specific conversion that your client is trying to get to happen on their website, this report will track it. So when you look at this report on the left, you're going to see a few different things. The first thing, if you look at the rows, and you see these gray rows, it says PC, tablet, and mobile. Those are the different types of devices we are serving ads on. And below each gray row, you'll see dimensions. These are the ad dimensions that we use when we serve the ads. So you'll see all the different ad units on each type of device, how many impressions, which means how many ads we served on each of those devices. Then you'll see how many clicks we got. That's how many people saw the ad and immediately clicked on it. The last two columns that are circled in red, you'll see click conversion and view through conversion. A click conversion is how many people saw the ad, clicked on it immediately, went to the website, and completed the conversion. They didn't just click and go to the home page. They clicked and they did those extra steps and completed the conversion. The view through conversion column is how many people saw the ad, did not click on it, and they still ended up getting to the website on their own and completing the conversion. So if you look at the view through column, the numbers in a lot of cases are higher than the actual click conversion column, which just goes to prove how many people are not clicking, but they're still converting. So I used to have conversations with clients all the time who would freak out when they saw a standard report that showed how many clicks they were getting, and they'd say, nobody's clicking on my ads. This campaign is not working. I'm going to pull the budget. I want to cancel. And it was a mess. But this proves you can't measure the success of a campaign just by clicks. You need to measure the success based on conversion, and that's what this report can do. And a lot of other companies are not offering this type of report. It does not cost anything extra. The only thing you need to keep in mind is that there is an extra step involved in the launch process, which is the placing of the pixel. It's very easy, but sometimes it does add a day to the turnaround time when we launch a campaign. So if it's a rush campaign, just please keep this in mind if a cross-device pixel is needed, because it could take an extra day for your client to get that pixel placed and for us to test it and make sure that it's placed properly. Okay, so real super fast, this is all I wanted to cover. If it's okay with you guys, I do want to just spend a quick minute just introducing you to the portal. I promise it'll be fast. The portal, again, is where you go to basically submit all of the requests of what you need from us. We are here to help you with trainings, with client pitches, with proposals, if you need an audience count, if you need to submit an order, you do all of that through the portal. You also can go to the portal to request training videos. The video I'm recording right now as we speak, I will post this on the portal. You can go to the portal for case studies, any other sales tools that you need, like OneSheet, all of it's on the portal. So the portal, and I will email this to you as well. The address is www.thebridgecorp.com/Cumulus. The password is Cumulus123, all lowercase. Type in the password, click submit, and you're in. So the navigation bar is this navy blue horizontal bar that you see across the center of the screen. If you need resources like case studies or training videos, you click on the resources button. If you need to submit an order, click on the new order button. And if you need to make any special requests, you click on new request. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to bring me to the submit a request section. This is where I go. If you look on the left, if you need to request a proposal or a media plan, which I will create for you, usually it takes about 1 to 2 business days to get these back. So please keep that in mind, because I have to do the research. I have to pull the audience count from the database. It will take 2 days to get these back to you. So if you submit a request at 10 a.m. and your meeting is at 3 p.m., you may not get it back in time. So just please keep that in mind. You can go here. All you do is just fill out the form to help me understand the goal of your client, and then you click submit at the bottom. Every time you submit anything in our portal and you click submit, you will get an email automatically sent to you that confirms it went through correctly and that we received your request. So you will have that confirmation. If you need creative design, so if you submit an order and you need Bridge to design the email or design the banner ads, this is where you go to make that request. Please do not, well, you can. So I would say 99% of the time, people don't request this until after a campaign is sold. Sometimes clients or AEs will reach out to us and say, well, can you do some mock-up ads for us so that it'll help me in my pitch? If you ask us to design banner ads before a campaign is sold, just keep in mind there is a hard cost associated. So we will invoice the Cumulus market for the creative services, even if it's not a sold campaign. So when you fill this out, you're basically agreeing that you will get billed for the creative services. So I recommend don't fill this out unless a campaign is actually closed. If you need a 30-minute meeting, which means I will get on the phone and talk to your client with you there, and I'll do a screen share and walk them through the pitch, or maybe answer any questions that they might have, or do anything that you need. You can request that from the portal. An audience count, that's if you need to find out how many people in our database match the target audience description for your client. If you fill this out, usually you'll get a response back from Chris or Danielle within an hour or 2. They're very quick with these. And then training. If you need any training, I don't care if it's the entire team or if it's you one-on-one, or if you just want to hop on the phone and brainstorm some questions that you might have, or issues that a client is experiencing, you can request that here. So that's the portal. I'll go over it in more detail on the next call, but I just wanted to introduce it to you in case any of you want to get started and start navigating through it, making some requests. And that is it. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. If you do have more questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can call me, text me, or email me anytime. And again, I will send this training video to you. So if you need to play back certain parts of it for a refresher, you'll have that opportunity to do so.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I will talk to you soon. I look forward to working with you guys.
Thank
All
you.
right.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.